Hello everyone, Jason here, back with another video for you guys. It is about midnight Mountain Time on Friday the 13th / Saturday the 14th, and breaking news, looks like World War might be on the way. The U.S. coalition has issued strikes, has struck Syria. Let's read here from CBS News Trump's announcement on what's they're being called a precision strike on Syria's so-called supposed chemical weapons capabilities that don't even know if they have. Anyway, a short time ago, this is Trump, a short time ago I ordered the U.S. Armed Forces to launch a precision strikes on targets associated with the chemical weapon capabilities of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. A combined operation with the armed forces of France and the UK is now underway. So this was a few hours ago. I'm reading reports of over or around 100 missiles total fired. Reports from on the ground being, let's just go to the Sputnik page quick here, 6 civilians. The Syrian state news agency reported 3 civilians, but this report, as you can see, put out by Sputnik, they say they have a local security source, and they're reporting 6 civilians. I guess they're supporting 6 civilians have been injured as a result of a missile strike on a military depot to the west of Homs. So we've got at least 6 injuries and 3 confirmed civilian deaths, it looks like. And then Trump here has a message on the strikes he just put out, of course, a few hours ago. So back to CBS News. Mr. Trump claimed the U.S. will have a sustained, in quotes, response to curtail Syria. He also calls out Iran and Russia. To Iran and Russia I ask, what kind of nation wants to be associated with the mass murder of innocent men, women, and children? The nations of the world can be judged by the friends they keep. But, you know, this rhetoric is getting old. It's not like we haven't mass murdered Arabs in the Middle East since our invasion of Iraq all the way up to the present time. So this painting of Assad, as you know, earlier in the week, Trump called Assad Animal Assad, and the media has been absolutely running with that, just absolutely demonizing the man. And it's just ridiculous. We are not the heroes in this situation. We have time and time again bullied the world into submission. So this idea that we're, on a humanitarian message to save the poor victims of this dictator Assad is just absolutely insane. Assad has been fighting against the al-Nusra and the Free Syrian Army and Jaish al-Islam, I think they're called. They keep changing the names of these groups, but they're basically all Al-Qaeda related, affiliated, US, Israeli, UK backed terrorist groups, just like ISIS. And Assad is actually stamping out these terrorists. He's doing a pretty good job. I'm not trying to defend the man. I'm not trying to say he has the best moral character in the world, but he has come to the defense of Christians and against these terrorists, and we're backing these terrorists that go around and slaughter innocent people, and we fund them, and we're allies with Saudi Arabia, who funds them, and Qatar, and the list goes on. And then here Trump is saying that we're going and saving, we're stopping the mass murder of innocent men, women, and children. It's absolutely insane. It's backwards. The propaganda is just out of control. So anyway, it looks like World War III may actually be getting going here, sadly, as Russia has already put out a statement after the strikes. I'm on RT here, Russia Today. I'm just going to read a bit from this page. Despite repeated warnings from Russia, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered American forces, along with their British and French allies, to strike military targets in Syria on Friday night. The Russian military operating in Syria was not notified about the American targets in advance, said the General Joseph Dunford. The U.S., and here he's quoting, specifically identified targets to mitigate the risk of Russian forces being involved. We used the normal deconfliction channel to deconflict airspace. We did not coordinate targets. That's the U.S. general there, I believe, speaking. While Trump said that the purpose of the U.S. actions is to establish a strong deterrent against the production, spread, and use of chemical weapons, Antonov reminded that the U.S., the possessor of the biggest arsenal of chemical weapons, has no moral right to blame other countries. That's what I was just talking about, and they're just pointing it out. This, I think, Russian official is pointing it out. Anyway, the combined decision by the U.S. and its allies to strike Syria comes after Russian Defense Minister spokesman Major General Igor Konashenkov presented evidence claiming that last Saturday's alleged chemical attack in Duma was orchestrated. The attack also comes just hours before experts from the UN Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, were scheduled to visit Duma on Saturday to determine whether chemical weapons had indeed been used there. So I don't know if these strikes actually are going to actually prevent these investigators from doing a proper investigation, but if you guys don't already know, haven't been following the news, Russia's been claiming from the get-go that the gas attack, which is being used as the reason behind our current airstrikes that just happened. Sorry there, I had a little interruption, but I'm back now. So, amid escalating tensions in the region, Russia has repeatedly warned the U.S. and its allies against taking any military action in Syria, as it might lead to grave consequences for the whole world, especially given the fact that Russian troops are deployed in the country. Moscow also suggested that it will shoot down any projectiles that threaten Russian personnel fighting jihadists in Syria. So far, there is no information that Russian citizens have been injured in the strike, the embassy in Damascus told RIA. And then, here's the threat. This is the important stuff right here. A pre-designed scenario is being implemented. This is in reference to the strikes that just occurred. Again, we are being threatened. We warn that such actions will not be left without consequences. Anatoly Anatov said in a statement on Friday night, all responsibility for them rests with Washington, London, and Paris. So this isn't the first time that they threatened to retaliate. Now that the strikes have happened, they're continuing to say that. They said they were going to shoot down any missiles we launched and the sources of where the missiles were fired, which I believe would include any submarines, any fighter planes, and any aircraft carriers or other ships that launched missiles. So far, there have been no reports of Russia taking any action yet, but as you can see here, it does look like they are going to be taking action. And in the past week, the past few days, also Iran has threatened to take action against Israel for their airstrikes initially that came the next day after the alleged gas attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if here in the next few days we have a coordinated strike with Iran possibly hitting some targets in Israel and Russia hitting some U.S. targets in the area, because we still have our ships out there and everything. And don't know if this is going to continue on our end, so I'm hearing that the airstrikes are definitely done for the night, but as we saw earlier, it seems that Trump is saying they're going to continue. Other sources within, or other government officials are stating that this was a one and done, so not really sure, but I do know from the propaganda, from what the Warhawks have been saying, from what the media has been saying, they're definitely pushing for an all-out war, so that's what I'm anticipating, particularly if Russia strikes back, which they have every moral high ground to do so. But we just committed a war crime. We didn't just hit military targets, we hit civilian targets, we bombed Damascus, the capital, and so this is just out of hand. And the whole reason that this is all about a false flag gas attack. There is still no evidence that this gas attack even occurred. Russia today announced that they are certain. Here, let me just go to my blog post that I wrote on this today, and I'm a little tired here, so sorry if I'm a little bit scattered, but World War III, man, it's just on the way. Also hearing reports while I wait for this page to load. Blackstone Intelligence has been getting multiple reports from multiple sources within the Ukrainian rebels that have been fighting the Ukrainian puppet dictator that we put in place when we overthrew their leader back a couple years ago. That conflict's never ended to this day, when the people of Ukraine stood up to the puppet racist guy that we put in there, and that fighting's still been going on. He's saying that they are anticipating that in conjunction with this, in a very short time, they're going to be seeing an offensive ramp up on the end of the U.S.-backed Ukrainian government. And I wouldn't be surprised either if Russia starts building up their troops on that border, on that side of things as well, because some of those militias are backed by Russia. So, alright, back to what the Russia said this morning that Trump should have listened to and had some patience. Alright, so during a press briefing on Friday, Mr. Lavrov, a spokesman for Russia, said he had irrefutable evidence that the attack was staged as a part of a Russophobic campaign led by one country, which he did not name. Also, Friday morning, General Igor Konashenkov, a spokesman for Russia's defense ministry, said, "We have evidence that proves Britain was directly involved in organizing this provocation." So that's interesting that he's blaming the UK directly, implicating the UK directly for staging those attacks, but as I mentioned, there is no evidence that any chemical weapons attacks in Duma even occurred on Saturday, and we're risking a world war over an unconfirmed alleged attack that, even if it did happen, we still have zero evidence whatsoever that Assad did it. His chemical weapons, he destroyed them several years ago. That was confirmed by independent reports. That's not to say he couldn't have developed new ones or got new ones since, but it just seems unlikely. And far more unlikely is that if he even had them, that he would actually use them against his own citizens, the very people he's been fighting tooth and nail to liberate from the Islamic jihadist terrorists, who have at times slaughtered not entire villages, but they've gone into Christian villages and they've slaughtered them, many of them. Heinous crimes, horrible, horrible. And it's Assad and the Syrian government troops who have come in and saved the day, sacrificed, lost many lives. Many Syrian soldiers have been killed, even when they've been captured, they've been murdered, executed, in defense of Christians, and this is an Islamic regime, at least from our standpoint. So the whole story's backwards. The whole propaganda is just the lies are just absolutely insane. So let's see if we I think there was one other thing here I wanted to touch on. Okay, so I think Russia's claiming that none of the cruise missiles launched by the U.S. and its allies entered the zone of responsibility of the Russian air defense. So that might be one reason they've delayed any sort of retaliation, is because we weren't hitting any Russian targets. I think they also reported no Russian civilians, no Russians were killed that they're aware of. The strikes took place 3:42 to 5:10 a.m. Moscow time, literally just hours before the investigators are set to go into Duma to investigate this attack. And so, anyway, yesterday, U.S. officials claimed to have blood and urine samples proving conclusively that there was chlorine gas, which is what they're saying the attack was. But then today, or Friday morning, Russia says they have solid evidence showing that the whole thing's a staged falsification, provocation, absolutely didn't happen. So they've actually released video evidence, which I'm going to make another video on here, maybe not now with it being so late, but all the stuff that's been going around, that's been getting everyone riled up, that's been getting everyone, pulling on the heartstrings, the emotional tugs. It's been the same video over and over and over in the hospital of the supposed victims being sprayed down with water. Doctors from inside the only hospital in Duma have said, and this is what the video that the Russians released to back up their claims, there were no traces of any chemical agents, any nerve agents, none of that were found on any of the victims that came in. The victims that you see in that video that the Western media has been playing over and over and over to foment this war propaganda, they came actually from I believe a shelled building, and they were escaping that building and it had lit on fire, and they had respiratory problems from inhalation of smoke. And at some point they were treating them all for these inhalation problems, and some guy comes in, some random dude that no one in the hospital knew, and he just started yelling that it was a chemical attack, and that's when, the Syrians have heard of these chemical attacks if they haven't known of people that have actually been involved in them, because the jihadi terrorists actually do have even admitted to it, but they carry out chemical weapons attacks. They definitely do have chemical weapons. So the Syrians have experience with this. So when they heard chemical weapon, they immediately started spraying each other off. And it just became a madhouse for a few minutes there until, the initial excitement from some random dude running in the hospital, and he could have been related to the white helmets who put out the propaganda videos showing the alleged effects. I believe that's where that video came from, but also some photos of dead children were released, and I've got a video on that. Check it out. I'll try to remember to put links in the description, but there's photographic evidence of them staging photos, and actually Russia predicted that this was going to happen weeks in advance. They predicted again that this was going to happen a day in advance, that there was going to be a false flag provocation carried out by the jihadists backed by the U.S., and that it was going to be used to get us into a war. Here we are, starting to get into a war. So, I don't know if there's much more to say here. I wanted to keep this video a little shorter, but yeah, it looks like we're definitely marching towards World War III, and yeah, hopefully we can stop the madness. I think there are, I'm reading here, U.S. anti-war activists told protests on weekend against attack on Syria. So on the bright side, it does seem that Americans are waking up. Seems like a lot of people are really not buying the lies. But if just Trump could have just been a little bit patient, if he could have just had some patience and waited for these independent investigators to get in there and finish their investigation. So the fact that he struck within hours of when they were going to go into Duma and start their investigation, what that tells me is that they know that they're full of it. They know that their story, the West knows that their story's a lie. So they're not going to wait for the evidence to come out, because the evidence isn't going to come out. In my opinion, it's not there. So they're not going to wait around for it. They're gonna strike. So, and who knows if it's going to prevent that investigation? Who knows if it destroyed any of the evidence? I don't believe they struck Duma, but yeah, so I think one more thing here. No, that'll do it. It's almost 20 minutes, so sorry if I'm a little scattered there, but a lot of stuff going on, and I just wanted to get this out, the breaking news, and hopefully we can avert World War III. But if it does happen, we started it. We attacked a sovereign nation. We attacked their capital, and we have it coming. We've been doing this for years, and it's about time someone stood up and put their foot down and said, no more bullying the world. So yeah, I hope we can avert World War III, and just wanted to get that out there. But the U.S. really, I've looked through so many media things, and only the Russian media seems to be mentioning the fact that the Russian president, or that the Russian military is still promising retaliation. So they're trying to, just another strike, but I think it's going to be a little bit more than another strike. I think there is going to be some reaction, and we'll see where it goes from then. I'll be back with more info tomorrow. Check out my Steam It blog. I've got a lot more information coming out on there. It's a lot easier for me to put out quick updates on breaking news on the blog post rather than making videos. So I hope everyone has a good day and stay well out there. Peace.